Germania. Cold, gloomy, and certainly far from civilization, for the Romans accustomed to the warmth of the Mediterranean. These desolate lands, considered the end of the world, actually hosted events that led to one of Rome's most shameful defeats, and one of the reasons of the divided structure of Europe that continues to this day. Welcome to the Encyclopedia Historia. In this video, we will talk about the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, which the Romans remember with shame, and the lost legions that brought Caesar to tears. Years AD. Under the rule of the first Roman Emperor Augustus, Rome continued to expand and strengthen. After Julius Caesar brought all of Gaul under Roman rule, the Germanic tribes, considered barbarian slaves compared to Rome, became neighbors of the empire. This border expanded further after Augustus' conquests. Initially, this neighborly relationship was of little importance to Rome. Unlike the Persians, there was no unity among the Germanic tribes, and they did not pose a significant threat to the mighty empire. Although Roman legions occasionally embarked on campaigns as far as Estonia, in search of the edge of the world, the Roman Empire's civilization did not extend beyond the Rhine River. During these campaigns, to prevent border tribes from attacking Rome, and to impart civilization, the children of tribal leaders were taken hostage to Rome. This measure aimed to protect the empire from potential raids, and to ensure that generals focused on more serious matters. Despite Roman legions conducting campaigns against the tribes, and capturing the children of tribal leaders, this did not effectively deter the Germanic tribes from attacking Roman territory. Each tribe made independent decisions, so even if Rome managed to assimilate one tribe, neighboring tribes continued to raid the borders. To protect the mighty Rome, Augustus decided to conquer Germania, and appointed his stepson to the task. These campaigns, initiated by Rome in 12 BC, eventually led the legionaries to the Elbe River, adding these lands to Roman dominion. To maintain control, Rome began building roads, bridges, fortresses, and new towns in the conquered territories. While these developments initially reduced the fear of occupation among the local population, later events would turn their fears into a horrific nightmare. In AD 7, to bring order to the newly established province of Germania, Emperor Augustus appointed his close friend and relative, Publius Quinctilius Varus, as governor. Varus decided to use the same methods he had employed during his previous governorship in Syria. The rule was simple: take everything the people have, and crush those who resist. This problematic approach caused quite significant unrest in the Germanic communities, which were previously unaware of central governance, public rules, or taxes. The only reason these grievances did not escalate into a full-blown rebellion was the presence of the mighty Roman army. Among those who couldn't stomach what Rome was doing in Germania, but still feared the legion's might, was Arminius, an ex-Cherusi prince, a new Roman citizen, and a commander in the Roman army. Arminius, who had been taken to Rome as a hostage, and raised there as a child, became one of Varus's local advisors. While maintaining order on behalf of the governor in Germania, he also tried to persuade local tribal leaders to unite for a collective operation. Through his efforts, tribes that would otherwise be at each other's throats joined forces against Rome, reasoning that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. When AD 7 came around, Varus set out with 3 Roman legions, totaling between 25,000 to 30,000 men, to remind Germania of his presence, and to suppress any murmurs of dissent. During the summer-long campaign, news reached Varus that one of the tribes had rebelled on the return journey. Wanting to quell the rebellion, Varus immediately changed his route, leading his army onto uncharted, foggy roads. Despite warnings from his military advisors that the terrain was dangerous and they could be ambushed, Varus ignored them. Varus had full confidence in his army, and his local advisor Arminius. After all, who could stand against the might of Rome? The route was prepared especially by Arminius and led the invincible Rome right into the middle of the trap. While Roman legions maintained discipline and order on the battlefield, they couldn't do the same on the narrow and muddy road they were traversing. Due to dense trees, swamps, and muddy terrain, the army was forced to advance in a long and narrow formation. It's said that the stretched army's length equated to a half-day's march, which was about 12 kilometers or 7.5 miles, based on Roman military marching speed. This situation played into the hands of Arminius and the Germans, who wanted to prevent Rome from forming its familiar battle formation. The Roman soldiers, despite their discipline in battle, couldn't maintain their formation on the narrow and muddy road. Germans attacked in the ambush on the narrow road. The Romans tried to put up a defense, but their dispersed ranks made it difficult for them to regroup, before the enemy infiltrated and attacked with all their might. The attack on the rear groups led to further disarray among the ranks. While the legionnaires tried to save their lives on one hand, they also tried to protect the convoy's supplies and provisions. By nightfall, they had given up on protecting the supplies, and began searching for a safe place, attempting to retreat. When they returned to the path they had come from, they witnessed the aftermath of the massacre and violence, which led them to decide that the only way forward was to keep moving. They tried to resist the constant attacks from the Germans, while attempting to open their way. On the second day of the attacks, a devastating piece of news spread among the soldiers. Their commander Varus was dead. Unable to bear the shame of this severe defeat, the entire command structure had committed suicide. The surviving soldiers were completely out of control and on their own. It was thought that things could not get worse for Rome. However, Arminius, the leader of the rebellion, had not yet played his biggest card. While the survivors fought to clear their path with their remaining strength, they reached a narrow point surrounded by a high fence on one side, and dense trees and swamps on the other. This was the point where the Germans would deliver the final and deadly blow. Cornered in a narrow area, the legionnaires couldn't hold out for long against the intense spear and archer attacks, and the axes and swords of the warriors coming from the gaps in the fence. They were killed, hanged from trees, some had their hands cut off, and others had their eyes gouged out. Rome's last soldiers perished in agony amid the mists of Germania. After 2 days and nights of continuous attacks, nearly all of the 17th, 18th, and 19th legions, which comprised 1/10 of the total military power of the Roman Empire, and numbered about 30,000 souls, from slaves to generals, had been wiped out. These 3 legions were never reconstituted in Roman history, and disappeared from the annals of history. When the news of the vanished legions reached Augustus, the emperor was devastated by grief and fear. The Germans who had wiped out 30,000 Romans could have crossed the Rhine into Italy and then Rome itself, with no chance of summoning a Roman army powerful enough to stop them in time. It is rumored that during this period of mourning, Augustus would occasionally shout, "Varus, give me back my legions." After this devastating defeat, Rome did not cross the Rhine for 6 years. In AD 15, a reconnaissance force under the command of General Germanicus crossed the border to find Varus's lost soldiers. When they arrived at the battlefield, they found countless scattered bones in the terrain. After burying the skeletons according to military honors, they withdrew, effectively marking the end of Rome's plans to advance and Romanize the northeastern territories. Europe was divided into 2 basic cultures, Romanic and Germanic. We still experience the consequences of this division intensely even today. Arminius, who delivered the most significant blow to Rome since Hannibal, became a national symbol for the Germans, particularly during the 19th century, when nationalist movements were strong. He was renamed Hermann, and a colossal statue of him, looking westward with a sword in his hand, was erected on a hill near the Teutoburg Forest. The statue held the title of the world's largest until the completion of the Statue of Liberty. While historians generally agree that the Battle of Teutoburg Forest divided Europe, there are differing views on what the Germans achieved. Some researchers argue that the Germans gained their independence and lived freely without Roman control and culture. Others claim that due to Roman exclusion, the Germans remained a backward community for a long time, out of touch with history and development. What are your thoughts on this matter? Did the Battle of Teutoburg Forest demonstrate the value of freedom, especially for the Germanic people, or did it lead to a divided Europe plagued by centuries of conflict and suffering? Please share your knowledge and thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching Encyclopedia Historia. If you like our video, please give a thumbs up and share. Subscribe to our channel to not miss our videos.